What do you prefer? Bedhead, the hair
I
presentation,
prefer head in
or
bed.
bedhead, if you know what I'm talking about.
Well, I think everybody prefers head in bed. I mean,
I got bedhead from
yeah, it
bedhead.
doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. You're right.
Right.
It does not.
I go with the flow.
No pun intended. All right. So,
Exactly. Let's begin this show.
sure.
This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, episode number 233. On this, the last week of December
Yes.
2023.
And this is the last episode of the year of 2023. And
It's the last episode before we might start charging people to listen to it. So
well, that
enjoy
could be
while
true
you
too.
can, no matter fucking.
Well, as we ring in the new year, I mean, people think the United States is basically a time bomb. They think 2024 is going to be unlike anything we've seen before politically.
Well, you know what? Get with the program.
Yep.
I've always been an apocalyptician. It just seems to make sense. Anyway,
yes.
I don't know what you did for Christmas. I did what I do every day, which is celebrate my own existence. But
Yep.
This was kind of terrifying to me.
Sure.
Family watches in horror as a million babies hatch in their Christmas tree. Yeah. Andrea Coward and her family thought that, Andrea Coward and her family thought that cutting down their own Christmas tree from a farm in Ohio would be fun. They were hoping to make a memory they'd never forget. Well, and they did. 2 weeks after they brought the tree home, the family noticed movement inside the tree. And suddenly, hundreds of tiny baby praying mantises were hopping all over the house, leaping all over the tree, all over the family. They were everywhere.
Praying mantises, wow.
Oh, I know. And the thing is, I guess the tree had been home to a praying mantis egg sac, which they didn't notice. Who would? And praying mantises usually enjoy laying their eggs in fir trees. So watch out for that next Christmas.
I mean, those are pretty rare to find just like walking around. I mean, I guess if you're really looking for them, I never see those things. And a million?
I guess you haven't had the right Christmas tree.
Clearly. So, I mean, you want to hear a good story, a fucked up story?
Just get on with it, Tim. It doesn't matter.
Okay. So, Sebring, Florida.
Has there ever been a podcast without a story about Florida?
I don't think so. I think I got two today. Richard Mayan Ham and his partner, Lakenya Levon Phillips, thought his or their, I don't know if it was both of their kids, but 9-year-old son was possessed by the devil. And so they made a bonfire, wrapped the son in a blanket, threw him in to get rid of the demon. Fortunately, and I think there was like live ammo in the fires all exploding. Cops come rushing in there. They saved it. The kid actually lives, and it's not even that fucked up. I think that blanket actually kind of helped it. Well, of course, Richard got in Florida, so the cop just opened fire basically immediately. You're dead, buddy. But so that's
no, wait. Did Dad go down?
Oh yeah, Dad's dead.
Good. Well, you know what? That's what you get for trying to burn your kid.
Yeah, I mean, Dad's dead. So yeah, the cops showed up, blew him away. In Largo, Florida, a 14-year-old boy killed his sister. Basically, it was like two guys, brothers, a sister, and she's like I think some teenage pregnancy thing going on. The babies. They're all shopping for Christmas presents. Yeah. They start bragging about who's got money and who's going to get more presents, and it really goes to their head, and they can't let it go. They go back to the house, and the father's like, "It's Christmas, take it outside," or some shit like that. And then the one who feels like he got embarrassed and maybe has less money and is getting less presents, put a gun to his sister's head and the baby, and ends up shooting the sister dead. The baby's alive, and then the other brother shoots him, but he's in critical condition.
And then the other brother shoots him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a family disaster.
Merry fucking Christmas, assholes.
All about presents.
Well, I think that it's interesting. You said the word embarrassment, and I think that's what a lot of shootings stem from. You disrespected me. You embarrassed me. The embarrassment of, the average male from 15 to 40. Usually they're the shooters, just saying.
It's weird, when people, first of all, get embarrassed. That's kind of weird to me. I can't really relate to that, but
never have been, never will be. Don't like to embarrass others, but it seems I do.
So that's good. But then to hold on to it to the point where time goes by. Usually the hormones got
the only reaction is death. Yeah,
and then you go through the process of getting a weapon, and it's insane.
Well, the thing is, look, the weapon was already there. First problem.
Yeah. Both those boys actually were, Florida. They were actually carrying weapons on them.
Then anybody that doesn't respect their own life isn't going to respect anybody else's either, and that's because most life in this country has been reduced to a crock of fucking shit. Well, anyway, on to better and more beautiful sights. Sure. Now you've been to Alaska, but I don't think you saw this, and this is what's happening right now in the Brooks Range, a 700-mile long mountain range that stretches from northern Alaska into the Yukon Territory. Well, at least 75 rivers and streams in the area have become tinted bright orange in the past 5 to 10 years.
Okay,
mineral Any idea why that might be?
Mineral changes, permafrost melting, global warming.
Genius, Tim. You do know everything. Absolutely. It's the discoloration, the result of oxidizing iron and sulfuric acid. And they're being inundated with high concentrations of heavy metals. So the oxidation of minerals in the soil may probably be lowering the pH and therefore increasing the acidity. Oh,
well, I mean, 2023 had some pretty epic showcases of what's going on with this planet. I mean, even with us. I mean, those fires, the smoke that came down this year
Canadian
in New York,
wildfires. Oh yeah,
was insane. The rain, the floods all throughout upstate New York. I mean, that's just happened.
New Jersey.
Just happened again. I mean, the Alps in Europe, for all you Europeans out there listening. I mean, this is the amount, the glaciers melting and the small amount of rain they've gotten. I mean, the lakes all in Italy are barely holding on. I mean, people can never remember this happening. Islands in some of these lakes that you could walk to now.
Well, yeah, and floods in Italy over the summer. Well, now going back to the West Antarctic ice sheet. So a study of octopus, I'm always studying them.
Interesting.
A study of octopus DNA. Scientists think may have solved the enduring mystery about when the rapidly melting West Antarctic ice sheet last collapsed. So it was focused on the genetic history of the turquette octopus, which lives on the seafloor across the Antarctic. So what they did was they were tracing the past encounters across the species' various populations, suggesting that the most recent collapse, when do you think it was, Tim? Give me a guess. Most recent collapse, not the present one.
Prior to this one. All right. Yeah. Hold on. I'm going to say 200,000 years ago.
Only 100,000. Okay. Well, what's 100,000 years between friends? I mean, it was called the last interglacial, something that geoscientists suspected, but have only been able to confirm now. Now, the project was exciting because it offers, I guess, a brand new perspective on how to solve the long-standing question about what's going to happen with the rest of the
well, it's just all about humans being able to adapt and whether they can. And I think well, maybe some people can. Obviously, money is a big factor, and if half the world doesn't have drinking water, I mean, we like to bitch about the billionaires, as we should. They're money junkies, and it's really out of bounds. But if you on a macro scale, it's 7 billion people. And the gated community is the industrialized world, which is 1 billion people. And then 6 billion people basically have nothing.
Well, in California, at least, is, they're recycling wastewater into drinking water as we both take a sip of whatever we're drinking. But back to the octopus for 1 minute. Sure. I thought this was a funny comparison. They said, it's like doing a 23andMe on the octopus. The information, as we know, this gets passed down from parents to children, are the same as the genetics of human beings, which is why we're all insane. And the turquette octopus, well, that's what they're studying. And next, it could be you and me.
How big are these octopuses?
Well, they're first of all, let me tell you what they look like. They look like a white and golden kind of crystal. They're almost see-through. Oh, cool. And how big are they? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Wait. Okay. No, I'm not so sure. But they're saying what's so important about this is that the current biggest contributor to global sea rise is the Antarctica,
and
that the collapse could raise sea levels between 3 and 5 meters,
In what duration of time? Like how soon?
Yeah,
we don't know.
Maybe
maybe
50, maybe 50 minutes or 50 years.
Well, I mean, Woods Hole is talking. Yeah, we're talking about the end of the conveyor belt known as the Gulf Stream. I mean, they have a fixed year. I think it's in the 2050s. Yeah. That's gonna. If you're living to, it sounds like if you're living to the 2050s, that's going to be an interesting.
Maybe you weren't born yet.
Some of the models.
These are pretty cute. These little demons. These little frosty poppets. These little.
Octopuses are
I like to call them the Tourette's, but they're the Turcats. Yeah, pretty cute. Anyway,
well, I guess in good news, or someone, there was a nice, generous person out there in Berlin, Vermont, in the Salvation Army little bucket with the Santa Claus ringing the bell. Someone threw a wrapped up $5 bill, but in it was a 1908 Indian head gold coin that's worth, well, I mean, it's nothing insane, but it's worth a couple Fowie. So
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it was a mistake because it's wrapped up. So someone was generous to donate that. That was in the news in Vermont. That was a big deal. I didn't know that Jingle Bells was never a Christmas song. That was always a Thanksgiving song. So it's I don't know why. It has nothing to do with Christmas. That's a fun fact.
Is there? I mean, I can't think of one good. I hate Christmas songs.
You don't like the Z Records Christmas album?
Oh Christ, hell to another. No,
I think it's pretty entertaining. What about Phil Spector's Christmas album?
No.
What's the Run DMC one? Is it like
no?
You don't like any Christmas.
I don't.
Fair enough. I mean, that's fine. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
Of course not.
No. All right. Well, I mean, I don't know. We're going to be ringing in the new year here, and this 2024 is going to be interesting. We have an elderly Biden that's going to going through a full presidential campaign. We'll see if he can get through that. If he croaks, it's kind of going to be like Bobby Kennedy and Nixon getting reelected. I still think Trump has a really good chance of winning. I think he has a good chance.
It wouldn't be bad if they both just croaked.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. He still has not admitted that he lost the election in 2020.
That he's given any lip service. He's giving lip service by everyone except his wife, who wasn't even in the Christmas card picture.
I didn't even know that. Yeah. That's funny.
What a fuck.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean.
Anyway, I don't know. I'm having a good time here, Tim. What can I say?
Yes.
We're hanging high and low.
Yes, we are. We'll probably be seeing each other in the flesh and physical realm probably in the next couple of days because
maybe it could be the next couple of minutes if I teleport myself over there.
Whoa, hey! Look out!
Very witchy, something witchy.
Why not?
Well, speaking about, this is certainly not an episode for the witches because there are women that do enjoy found recordings and noise music, and I don't even know. I think it takes a certain person to really get into the genius of our next guest, Andrew Chadwick, who's just, besides being so musically astute about so many kinds of music, decides to make something that is a completely alternative form of, I wouldn't even call it music. It's more of just a mishmash of found and accidental sounds. That's as if, I guess, he has hooked up his own schizophrenic thoughts and then turned them into a soundscape. He's
playing, he's from Florida, but he's playing in New York City at Heart Bar this Friday, the day this comes out, the 29th. So
spinning and spinning around. And he's an interesting character. Very good DJ, I hear. And he knows so much about music. And that's probably perhaps why he decides to go very outside of it all and make something unique to the very moment he's doing it. So with no further ado, episode 233, Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, Lydia and Spin. Happy holidays. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Andrew Chadwick, AKA Ironing, because of the way he uses two ironing boards to set up his so-called instruments, which can involve anything from micro cassettes, vinyl piled on top of each other, mixing boards, cell phones, and other random devices to make or trap noise, to then from which he makes more noise. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, how are you?
Perfect as always.
Yes. And so Andrew is in Gainesville right now, which child abuse and Ironing had a show together just a few weeks ago or a month ago or whenever it was.
Yeah.
And sadly, that was the first time I've ever actually been to Gainesville in my life. And I was pleasantly surprised. I actually dug the town. It's pretty cool. And Andrew, you happen to live in a nice house, that your own house, and you near like, do you have avocado tree in the back? Is that true? Or is that
yeah, I just realized today I have an not today, this year I realized I have an avocado tree.
You have an avocado tree, and then you have like a little park reserve just right next to you that's infested with giant alligators. Like tons, not some, like shitloads. So you're in the real deal. You're in the real deal heart of darkness of Florida, but it's also a ray of light compared to the counties around it. Not to diss those, but it is kind of an oasis.
We talk about Florida a lot because it's, first of all, one of the most perverse and weird states where so much happens that gets in the news, just about rando silliness, violence, alligator attacks, etc. So you are in the heart of darkness.
Blue dot in the middle of red.
And so, Andrew, before we talk about your arts and all that stuff, can we at least start, because I love this story, how you ended up in Florida. You can paraphrase it, but how you got there with your family, I think is a great story. So I want you to share.
My parents bought a fiberglass hull and deck of a sailboat in our backyard in Michigan. They put it in our backyard, and my dad finished it out. It was his first major woodworking project he'd ever done. Had to read books learning how to fiberglass and read books learning how to do everything, because there was no YouTube at the time. You know, it was like in the 80s. So had a problem, he would write Cruising World magazine and they would write him back or publish his thing. And so finally it was done, and we had to get a crane to move it out because we weren't by the water. Had to ship it not ship it, but drive it down the road to the water and launch it. And we spent about a year going up through Canada and down the East Coast down to the Bahamas. Stayed in the Bahamas for like 3 months and then settled in Florida. And parents had enough money to rent a house and look for jobs. And
how old were you when that happened?
I was 9 years old. My brother was 17.
That must have been an adventure.
So, yeah, it was a little 28-foot sailboat. It wasn't a big boat by any means, but.
Are you wearing one of your own T-shirts? Because that's really cool.
No, this is for, we do instead of an open mic, there's an open aux where you can do like an electronic set. You signed up a couple nights before, and they do it once a month. And I actually don't do it. I don't put it on. I just participate and record it.
But that's the T-shirt for it.
Yeah. So my friend Mark made this. He puts this on. It's called Squared Wave.
Yeah. So you do kind of whatever you want to do.
And I'm putting on a festival.
I haven't done a festival.
You haven't done a festival.
You haven't done a festival. You've been at a lot of festivals, though.
Yeah. That seems like a lot of stress.
Well, I'm sure it is. So you have this, not even though you're from Michigan.
Yeah.
But that's your Scandinavian roots. You couldn't help but end up on the seas and dealing with the ocean. And we kind of shared experiences. Simon's a sailor, the producer, but just that feeling of no land to be seen and up and down in the oscillation of giant waves. You're in a valley and then you're surrounded by walls of water, and then all of a sudden, whoop, a few seconds later, you're on top of the mountain, and just doing that, which feels indefinite, feels like an indefinite experience, is terrifying, thrilling, hyper presence. Would you say hyper presence is something you seek? And would you say their nautical upbringing brought you to just wanting to be in the here and now?
I think that experience illustrated to me that like another type of life was possible. That it wasn't just my parents both had regular jobs, but they also had that they took off and just spent a year traveling and took their kids. And my mom was a school teacher, and she homeschooled me and my brother, and hanging out in the cruising community, like the liveaboards are all very like the underground DIY community. They're very supportive. Well, some of them very supportive and just look out for each other.
Sure. And then you ended up in the Melbourne kind of Cape Canaveral area and you witnessed the Challenger explode. They all took you out of the school because it was right there. And you're like, oh, it's and then the thing exploded.
And then all the school teachers are eventually like, okay, let's go inside.
Let's talk about
that. Then we had a lot of talks. Yeah. So it was
well, good preparation for the rest of life and how many other things will possibly explode before the end of our days.
Absolutely.
So, so let's talk about your journey with music then.
Yeah.
When did you decide that you wanted, in some form, to dedicate a massive part of your life to music? How old were you when you made that decision?
Ooh, well, I definitely I had to make a budgetary decision where I was reading a lot of books and comics, and I liked a lot of music, and I couldn't afford all of them. So I decided I could get my books at the library. I'd kind of outgrown the comics I was reading, and so I chose music. And then after high school, I started volunteering for a music magazine called 19 that was based in Melbourne at the time.
Which still goes on, and reviewed one of your recent shows.
Yeah. They went online only though, and that's when they went online only is when I moved to Gainesville.
I love the one line that I read in the Inc. 19 review of your recent show, where, quote, the music that you were doing, it's making a minute or an hour feel about the equivalent, which is really what this kind of beyond dissident soundscaping overlaying of so many disparate elements in your music, it is a time warp in a sense. And back to Tim's question about hyper present, you have to be hyper present when you're manipulating all these different commodities of sound on your ironing board.
Absolutely. I mean, it took me a while to realize, like, okay, this thing that worked in practice, I can practice techniques, but I can't try and replicate or duplicate the exact same thing. I have to pay attention to what's actually happening right now rather than trying to chase this thing I might never get again, and because I'm punching in radio, I don't know what's on the radio, and the loops on the record don't always hit at the same time. I'm doing like physical lock grooves. I'm putting objects on the record to make them hit at the same time, but they won't always, I can't do it exactly the same way as I did.
And what about occasionally something on your head as well? I mean, in the Inc. 19, I can't quote it exactly, but they said at one point you had, I don't know if it was a turntable or something on your head.
Yeah, it was a turntable. And so then I'm kind of like moving my head. And I can just balance it and it just feels right. I don't know. Like I didn't practice that. That was something I just did in the moment at one of my shows. And then it just kind of.
Your head becomes another instrument in the deconstruction of all music.
And those are things that happen in the library. I think all performers experience epiphanies and some kind of discovery at some point during their performances if you're performing a lot, and then if it's worth it, you kind of store that away in your little library of techniques,
tricks and follies.
Yes.
But that's one of the hits that people like you gotta play a couple of hits, so
talk about so you went from having a label too, right, to suddenly like, well, maybe I should start doing this. And you're telling the story about how you were down in Miami at the International Noise Conference, and you're like, you know what, I think I can do this too.
Yeah, that was a pivotal moment where I ran into a friend of mine in the streets of Orlando, and she said, oh, I'm going down to the International Noise Conference this weekend. It was the second year they had done it, and I hadn't heard about it yet. So it was 2005, and I went down there, and everybody had like a different approach, but everything was accepted and supported, even though there were very different types of things going on. And as soon as I got home, I gathered together equipment I already had and stuff I felt inspired by, and put together a set. And I played my first show 3 weeks after INC. So it was kind of a train wreck, but I wanted to get my first show out of the way, so like I didn't overthink it and just not ever do it. So I purposely try to do it as soon as I could, and then it got better. So
as you should if you do something regularly. And you've also when was your first tour?
First tour was I had played less than 10 shows actually. It was in 2005, in July of 2005, and I did 2 weeks. Up until recently, it was the longest tour I'd ever done by myself, and just went all the way up to Providence and out to Bloomington, Indiana, and just did a big big wild loop by myself and my.
Well, Providence is a very, supportive place, and Bloomington, Indiana, is also kind of the middle of the country, very weird place where a lot of the university having the largest rare book collection, and being a place that Burroughs hung out at. It also has a lot of freak factor there.
Yeah, I played in a field in the middle of the day. It was for the label Blue Sanct. It was their anniversary show, and they were kind enough to let me play it because I was touring around in that time. They're like, yeah, so
okay, you're playing in a field.
So this is a real field. It's not a field recording. It's a field.
No, it was a freshly mown field of grass. Like, yeah.
How are you plugging your instruments in?
Some extension cables.
That's nice. It reminds me. Once I was in Slovenia with a artist that makes these incredible wax sculptures that look really immense when she films them. She blew up half her face one time in black candle wax. But we were driving in the country, and she said, "Do you see that tree?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "That was my office for 6 months." I'm like, I suddenly had that vision.
Yes, I mean the idea of and this is kind of the spirit, part of your spirit, and a spirit in general of a certain community, which is found sound, found stages, always thinking outside of just the margins of what an instrument is, what a performance space is, who's included, and these things are important. In fact, what's interesting about for the most part, I would say, about just like the whole Miami International Noise Conference scene and stuff like this, there is a kind of fraudulent fake tolerance group movement going on in the youth, which is basically the opposite of what, say, you or any of us are, which is we're high tolerance, low maintenance. There's a new trend of low tolerance, high maintenance. And what's that about? So one thing about the spirit of you and just that whole scene is you guys are always challenging the margins of what was normality and what is acceptable, but you're still very high tolerant. And for the most part, most people in this scene are kind of low maintenance, and that's why
I like this. I like this sentence that I saw on your Bandcamp. I don't remember what, but this seems to be, kind of the mantra of your creative process, is that you are documenting the in-between moments of everyday life.
Oh, yeah.
I think is very appropriate, especially because you've done a lot of phone cell recordings, just walking around randomly recording whatever it is that's out there.
Yeah, that's a lot of like under my own name, I do like cut up autobiographical kind of cut up stuff. But I do like to focus on like the moments in between, like the kind of awkward spaces and between conversations, kind of, the shuffling and the and the kind of things that get looked over in life, I guess. I don't know.
I always say the power in spoken word is the space between breaths.
One thing, like we just did. One thing that I like connecting with you, Andrew, when we hung out like a month or so ago, is that we both enjoy radio surfing. Like I just checking out what's out there, because most of the stuff on the radio, to be honest, is kind of shitty. But you gotta have to look for it. And I love just driving around South Brooklyn and catching these Caribbean or Jamaican pirate stations, which you'll get for about 5 minutes until you're out of the radius and it's going to burn out. But you find a lot of gems. And you're telling me, as you were touring solo in your SUV, or I don't know what kind of car you have, but your little van, just driving around the country, and finding these strange AM and strange little radio, and there's something peculiar about them, even if you don't like the content, just the whole atmosphere.
And the way it changes regionally too. I mean, there's a really big difference. Just, I mean, even look between New York and LA, we'll take the vast divide. It's so different, the radio. And then in between, there's all these little mini regional, weird, religious, country, whatever, old top 40 rock and roll. I mean, it just goes everywhere.
Yeah, that's one of the first things I do is try and tune in the radio if I get to a new city and figure out like what's going on. Miami's really great for that. There's all sorts of like pirate radio stations. Even the AM band is really good. And I actually have a release under the name DJ Goddamn that is never mind the static. This is Miami. I did it like in 2005. I had recorded it to use as source material for ironing, but then I don't remember why I loaned it to a DJ friend of mine. He's like, no, put it out just like this. Thank you.
Are you familiar with John Duncan?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I when I was researching you, I thought of him.
Oh, that's
another sound and another radio sound extremist and very nice guy as well. Yeah.
Also, I mean, one thing that you are really into, is dance music, and obviously you put dance music in your quote unquote noise music or whatever you want to call your music as part of the collage or as part of the layers, but you also just DJ. I mean, you actually are a connoisseur of many different styles.
Well, look at all the records behind him. I mean, he's sitting in front of about 2,000 vinyls.
You well, it's interesting because people put themselves in these boxes and they actually cut off their own curious antennas just to stay in these margins that I don't know why, but you definitely don't do that. And
yeah, I feel like there's all these things inform each other too.
So, sure.
How many records do you have back there?
You know, I'm not really sure, and that's not.
I mean, I would say thousands.
Yeah, and there's like 3 rows of 45s up there that you can't see above.
Now, is that also a cat pillow I see behind you?
Yeah.
Do you have an actual cat?
I do.
Have you recorded it?
No.
I know. I saw that thing about the pussification. Is that one of the records?
Oh, that was that was a compilation that was done of like people like cat sound that involved cat sounds, and I used a found sound, like a found answer machine recording that I had of that involved a cat. That was.
But you should check out Joseph Keckler's Cat Lady recording. It's online on YouTube. It's very interesting.
Your cat was on an answering machine, or no? You used the cat?
Oh no, I found an answering machine tape that had somebody interacting with their cat on it. That was really sweet.
Somebody like a cat lady talking to her cat.
Yeah.
I also found it kind of very interesting your tribute with the 100-year anniversary of John Cage's birth, where it was phone calls to 29 people, whether they answered or not.
I didn't think about, I borrowed all these cell phones from the crowd, and I didn't think about like, I'm going to need people's codes to unlock it. So they'd unlock it, but then it would close again. And then like people were answering, they were confused, even though I had told them in advance, like, hey, I'm not going to say anything, And it was true at this club with these huge PA and like there's like the humming of the dial tone and the numbers and everything. It was really kind of like,
right up your alley.
It didn't work out great. It worked out great,
It's the concept. It's not, I mean, sometimes it's the execution, sometimes it's the concept.
Yeah, but I'm not sure who of that list of artists actually came through in the audience.
Well, next time call John Duncan.
Nice.
At the same time he calls you, of course.
So what were some of the most terrifying performances you've ever seen that you maybe you didn't enjoy them? Were there ever performances you saw that genuinely kind of scared you?
Yeah, there are definitely times when I felt like, oh, I am in actual danger. This isn't just like fun, playful danger. Like something might actually happen here. And because I videotape a lot of shows, there's one show I'm thinking of in particular where I just kept filming because I thought, oh, somebody might need this, And that was it was in Chapel Hill. It was at the No Future Fest, and I think it was Wilderness that played. Anyway,
what was scary about it? Were people being assaulted? Was it just an aura of the performance?
Somebody was very antagonistic, and there was fights brewing, and yeah. So,
what do you? I mean, you like White House, right? Do you like antagonistic lyrics?
I
respect White House. They're not really my jam.
Fair, okay.
I don't listen to White House.
Right.
Much.
Not many people
do. Is it necessary?
Like power electronics just isn't really where I go, but I appreciate some of it. But
when you want to chill out, how do you even decide out of those thousands of LPs? You ever just like I ching it, just pull something out and go, all right, that's next on the turntable?
Sure, that's fun. I don't know. I listen to a lot of field recordings and kind of droney stuff if I really want to chill out. If I'm trying to block out work at chatter and stuff at work, because I'm a very attentive listener. So like if people are talking or different sounds.
I have a cute hearing myself. I don't like it.
Yeah. So there's a lot. I have like some favorite like kind of field recording oriented labels that I put on in headphones and enjoy those.
Which I found in just my minimal vinyl collection, but I pick up some stuff and I found a field. I think you might even know what it is. It was like a field recording of Central Park in the 1940s, I think. I ended up selling that thing for quite a bit. I mean, just atmospheric hi-fi recordings. You know, like a train going by. That whole thing. Are you a connoisseur of that kind of stuff? It's just basically atmospheric, not really music, just recordings of Central Park.
Called purple noise? Is it called purple noise? Does it that pink noise, brown noise, white noise? No.
I think of it as like slice of life sort of things, you know, like these moments, the ephemeral moments that you can kind of make last a little bit longer. Yeah, I like that sort of thing.
And what's interesting is before Tim was asking you, when you're doing your performances, for instance, you have to be really in the here and now. When you're listening to these field recordings, it takes you out of the here and now and puts you someplace else, which is an undefinable place in somebody else's reality.
Yeah, last time, so there was this label called Quiet American, or it was a website. I don't know if it might have been a label, I don't know, but it was a Quiet American, and they had these things called vacations where field recordists around the world would send in 1-minute vacations with a little description, and they would do it with the binaural microphone, so the sound was placed like the same way with the headphones, and that, I used to burn those to CD if somebody was going on a long plane ride or something. So just like, one little.
Did you have a favorite vacation? Did you have a favorite 1-minute vacation you went to?
A couple. There was one, I don't remember who it was anymore because it's been so long, but it's there's one where there's somebody walking in front of the person who is recording, and there's this little kid with a little tricycle and one of the wheels a little wobbly, and it's just, you can just hear it go from right to left in front of you, and he's just talking in another language and like very quietly to the kid, and the kid's kind of talking back, and that's really nice. Just say go down the street. I
always miss when I was nomading in Louisville, Kentucky for a while. Every night, multiple times, the train would go by, which I just find the most mournful yet liberating sound, because maybe it's just the hobo in me. It's just like the sound of a train. I don't mean a subway train. I mean a real train with its, whistle blowing is just such the sound of freedom or homelessness.
Speaking of trains, that high-speed rail between Orlando and Miami, is that in effect yet, or it's
I don't know anything. I know that's supposed to be happening, but I don't. Yeah. The Bright Line.
Yes, the Bright Line.
Do alligators make any sounds?
They
snarl, growl? Do you have any recordings of them? Can't get close enough to their mouth.
You can get closer to them, then I think it's probably wise, especially like right down there. Like you can just walk up to them; they're laying out there. I mean,
waiting for you.
You just and they won't really mess with you. It's just not smart to be that close.
Hello.
Maybe one of them had a bad day.
What's the biggest one you've ever seen lurking in your backyard?
My backyard being the nature preserve.
Yes.
I don't know.
12 foot. How much?
20?
20. These things get huge. These aren't little ones.
You hate to fit you, me, and Tim inside him.
It's probably more. The biggest ones are probably more around 17 or 18, but that doesn't fucking matter at that point. That those things are.
Any pythons have you seen roaming around the?
No, thankfully. I think that's more as just a south.
Yeah, that's way down south. But you have the real, because you're kind of more north centrally, so you have all the classic water moccasins. And
is Gainesville considered Alligator Alley, or is that
no?
That goes across this bottom of Florida.
Yeah.
Okay.
Through the swamp, basically, from like the West Coast to Miami. I actually love driving that road when
I do too.
It's beautiful.
When it's dark and like you can see the lights of Miami before you get there, and that's when I know, like, all right, start tuning in the stations. Try and catch what you can.
And there's some real interesting little villages if you pull off around there. Some real swamp redneck stuff around there. It's a little scary actually, if you're an outsider. But you do live where, well, the college where you are, the university where you're at is well, you guys are called, the mascot's called the Gators. You guys are called the Gators.
Known for where Danny Rollins killed a few sorority sisters a couple of decades ago. Terrifying.
What do you, I mean? So I don't know, not to blow your cover. You do have a sweet deal because you have a little administration gig at the university, which allows you to just tour and do whatever the fuck you want. In fact, it's encouraged. You were telling me they're like, no, this is school schedule. You need to take this time off and go do your own thing.
Well, it wasn't based around school schedule.
It wasn't. What school and what is your administration?
They probably appreciate if I didn't get into that.
Oh, okay, all right.
I mean, I don't mind, but you know,
all right, I'll ask you privately.
I do work an office job, and I get vacation time, and so I recently did a 5-week tour, which was, I'd never been out west, so I went all the way out to Seattle and did like a big loop, driving by myself,
all by yourself, exactly. What is the future of Florida? Not to go too political, but what is the future of Florida university and higher education institutions when you have DeSantis right now? It seems like he's declaring war on these places, which are very good schools, by the way. These
war
are very
on common sense, war on intelligence, war on the individual, war on
really sad. It's terrifying. I mean, a lot of people are leaving. A lot of professors are leaving, or it's very sad.
Yeah.
You know, what they did to New College, like, I mean, is there any coming back from that? You know, I don't know.
And what does DeSantis want to fill the space up with, or he just wants to slash and burn?
Yeah, I don't know. Now they're saying, like, you know, that they can have like state talking points in the library. You know, it's just terrible.
Yeah, it's just the cycle of fascism, which continues to repeat itself historically every couple of decades. I mean, it's the same as it ever was. It's just these, these social justice warriors of the lowest order who want to impose their politics on everything and everyone, which is not what this country supposedly was all about to begin with. And here we go again. Welcome to America, asshole. And then the sad part is, all these people fleeing even worse situations are here to realize exactly how cruel, corrupt, and awful the government here can and will be. Thank you very much.
What would you rather talk about? your homemade instruments and the collages.
So with ironing, what I primarily do is I have record players and tape players and radio on my ironing boards, and then they're pretty much like I use like the Caliphones, so they're a little bit more robust. They're made for kids, so they're made to like take a beating, right? So like institutional record players, and I use those to like kind of physically cut up records, like do loops and things like that, and cut up tapes and stuff on top. That's what I normal thing. And then I have, of course, we all have varied interests, I think. So,
you bring your ironing boards with you wherever you go? You have to, I guess. And because you know what they can tolerate.
Yeah, my friend Bada recently did a paint job for them, so they look great. It looks like a 80s surf shop in Florida, like exploded onto my ironing boards. There's definitely more interesting looking than they were.
So talk about your DJ nights, because and tell me what kind of dance music. I mean, you're into soca, you're into all types of different Caribbean music. What are you kind of these days? What are you really into?
So I DJ as Dunce Party, and primarily focusing on current soca, Afrobeats specifically. I focus on like Ghanaian and Nigerian Afrobeats, and it's different than when you say Afrobeat like Fela Kuti,
right?
And I kind of tried not to say that term for a while, but that's what people are calling it, so I'm going to call it Afrobeats, so because that's what people say. So, but it's like current urban dance music, basically. And
is this like a straight DJ gig kind of thing, or do you also mix in your
Yeah, it's just like a dance party, and I know a lot of times people don't know the songs, but they're dancing anyway, which is exactly the kind of crowd that I want.
Do you dance?
Yes, absolutely.
You dance while you're a DJ, and you're the dancing DJ.
Don't trust a DJ who's not dancing to their own music, Well, I also put in some Mexican cumbia in there, which I really like, cumbia sonadera. And in the past, I've done Italo mixed in with that and stuff, and like I don't
Do
know.
you still, with the mass accumulation of the vinyl library that you already have, do you still stock record stores?
I'm trying to save some money, and on tour I definitely did do it because I was like, because I had one that warped for sure, so I just no, but I do love record stores. They're sacred places. I'm always very excited to play in record stores. In fact, Long Hair Records in Albuquerque, New Mexico, after I was done, he brought out a stack of like warped and messed up records. And he's like, "Here, I think you
Oh,
could use."
nice.
So, yeah, there's that aspect of
So does your average, that's a great call out, shout out for your average fans. Bring me your broken, your corrupted, your warped, your sun damaged records.
Well, I mean, going back to dancing, I mean, I've mentioned this before in the podcast. Stockhausen always said he would go dancing once a week, and he thought it would be, so he would do all types of stuff, and he was open to it. Like he'd do like classic Viennese waltzes or whatever, but he thought it was very important that composers and musicians don't or didn't or whatever the grammar is lose touch with the connection of dance and music. In fact, he says it makes, especially esoteric composers, he says, oh, that's one thing that stands out or that differentiates me from them is I can tell they never dance. And
also, you know what? Some people are just afraid to dance because they're too uptight. I mean, people that dance think you got to cut loose. It's, you cut the rug. If you're too uptight to dance, white boy ain't got no rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, some of my favorite ironing sets are when people are out there and they're dancing too. So that does happen during ironing sets as well. And as far as records go for DJing, I do DJ off records sometimes, but like the current stuff that I'm doing, like the soca and the Afro beats, a lot of that stuff doesn't end up on vinyl. Some of the cumbia stuff is starting to get pressed to vinyl, and that's really cool. And I'll play that out.
But is most of that on CD or just like when you say it doesn't end up on
files?
Just files.
Files, yeah. And for a while, like talking like 2010 or something, I've been following Ghanaian music for a long time. Like that, a lot of that stuff was just a lot of African music was just passed from phone to phone kind of thing. But like Ghana and had like a really good blog infrastructure, and I think that's helped my focus on it was because I was able to go to like GhanaMotion.com and download like these current songs, and like it would get posted like, oh, here's this new song from so-and-so, here's this new song from so-and-so, and you download it, you check it out, or you just stream it on the line. And wasn't always the highest quality file, but like I would make a note of it in the file name and eventually like look for a higher version. Nowadays, everything's like on a lot of things are now on iTunes. Some of it's even on Bandcamp. So it's easier than it used to be.
Have you ever DJ'd at a wedding?
Yes.
You get wedding proposals?
Yeah, and I've done it for a few good friends. My buddy Dave invited me out, flew me out to Austin for his wedding, and I was gonna be there anyway. So but he turned me on to Italo years ago. So he used to do house parties in Gainesville that were Italo disco and like Southern rap. He had a radio show called Phasers 2 Stunna.
Well, I mean, obviously there's Southern rap, and that makes a lot of sense. But Italo disco, but there you are. You're in this.
They're united by cheesy keyboard sounds,
which I think they use. Both of them use them well. I mean, do you think Giorgio Moroder thinks his sounds were cheesy?
I say that lovingly.
Of course, I agree with you. I'm just curious.
I guess he never asked me for his opinion, right? Just saying.
I'm just curious. I'm asking myself. I wonder if he actually thinks they're cheesy. I don't know.
By cheesy, I might be saying pop. By pop, I mean that's catchy and good. By his standard, probably, right? I mean,
totally. Who's your favorite Southern rap artist? Or name your name. Just it doesn't have to be your favorite. Just name a couple that you really, really dig that are in the top.
Okay, so saying Southern rap, I'm going to include New Orleans Bounce in that. And I really love Sissy Nobi. And part of it is that I really love like Sissy Nobi's production style, that there's like this really choppy aspect to that they make. And also sometimes the vocal track, it'll sound like, did you record that with the window open and there's like a parade going by? Like it's just like really dirty and grimy.
Is Big Frida the most popular or the most well-known Bounds?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carry on. We want to know
I
more
love
about
Big Frida.
about your Southern.
Who is that?
Big Frida.
Yep.
Yeah, I love Big Frida as well. I also really like Big Chew. Just like his vocal style and the way he kind of hypes up a party.
Well, I'm a big fan of Scarface, first album, Diary of a Madman, and his production on My Homies, and Face Mob is one of my favorite records, actually. And that's got, that's deep, cheap beat. Like that. Well, Mystical is really also right up there.
Yeah.
That's my trap.
I think my other direction I'd go with Southern rap is probably South Florida. And I really like
from way back or from what years?
Miami bass.
Yep.
I'd go kind of current with I really like the whole crew, like Young Gordon and Snappy Jit. Snappy Jit hasn't been doing a whole lot, but I saw they started having some new tracks again. But it's just like
Snappy Jit.
Yeah.
So what do you think of Trina now with all these young?
Oh, I saw Trina once. She played on top of a bank vault. It was amazing.
I mean, she kind of was ahead of her time in terms of just like the hyper-sexualized stripper turned rapper. Yeah, totally. and I like her tracks. What about kind of more like Texas, like Southern folk rap, like Viper, like folk art, kind of like? What do you think of Viper? Do you not know Viper that well?
No, I respect Viper. I think Viper is at this point doing a shtick of himself.
Oh, well, was that not always the case? It's not really clear.
I don't really know. I didn't really follow him up.
I was supposed to do a double bill with Viper in Texas, but they at Rubber Gloves they had to pull the plug because well, first of all, he started selling tickets independently from the club, and it was like kind of like ripping them off, like, well, we can't give you this guarantee and you're independently selling tickets.
That's the hustle.
Yeah. And then of course there was some like kind of predatorial, like 14, 15-year-old girl exchanges going on that was in the periphery of the club, and they're like, we just got to pull the plug
for nothing.
Yeah, we can't do this. We're gonna get ourselves in trouble. And we're gonna get ripped off. How about no?
Yeah, well, he traveled to Gainesville to play a show, and then I didn't go, but I heard that he was just, everybody was like buying him so much stuff, and that, because Viper, and he had like a reputation, and then he just like passed out at the bar and didn't play. So
okay, so people had party favors that he indulged in, and he couldn't even get to the stage. That's a move. I mean, that does happen. It's kind of what. So next question, because you like to do like field performances with your nautical roots. Have you ever done boat performances? And I don't mean like booze cruises where you can just see the pier from 10 feet away, but have you ever like gone way out there and performed?
So regretfully, I missed an opportunity to play a set on a pirate ship out of Tampa. And my friends all went and did it, and I had a prior obligation, and I just, I had agreed to do something else.
Wait, a pirate ship?
So that could mean a lot of things. So this is not like a theme park pirate ship. Was this like an old one or a new one where they like kind of like Central American, South American ones where they go and rip off like yachts? So
I don't think it was. They weren't active pirates, but from what I understand, it was a pirate themed ship.
Okay.
Yeah, and then later on, it sank, so I will never have that opportunity again.
So was this kind of like some kind of theme park piece of junk that basically they wanted to dump, get rid of? They're like, oh, you can just have it, and then it just kind of disintegrated? Is that or was this built from the ground up with the intent to have noise concerts?
I'm gonna go with the first one. Just I don't know. No, I like that story.
Well, Tim, what about that boat that would go between Copenhagen and
Der Stubnitz?
That was great. I've played on that a few times.
I played that.
That was a pirate. That was like a pirate ship.
Well, they took it. I don't know if are you familiar with this place, Der Stubnitz, Andrew? So Der Stubnitz, it was stationed most of the time in Rostock, Germany, former East Germany.
Yeah.
A fully functional, up to 300 person industrial fishing boat that could go transatlantic.
With a huge skeleton on the mast.
So they wanted to get rid of it, and then the artists turned it into a commune squat. Now the thing about communist squats is they can be magnets for a bunch of incompetent losers. But this one, you couldn't be. You're kicked off immediately because to maintain a fucking boat, because that's where I'm going with this. It was fully functional, still is. And they turned these big ice storage containers, which were giant, into stages, kind of post-apocalyptic, kind of like cables coming out of the. The whole thing's working. They have a full stage. They have videos. Anyhow, they were doing festivals, and I think I played it on Der Stubnitz in like 6 cities. I played it in Rostock, Hamburg, Copenhagen, Dunkirk. I did Dunkirk. I've done Amsterdam on Der Stubnitz, and I think I did Newcastle.
You're not only a road dog, Tim. You're a sea dog. You're a sea dog.
Go way back with that thing. But
one of the best places to perform in Europe is A38, also a boat.
Yes, in Budapest.
Yeah.
But that just sits on the river.
It just sits there, but that's good enough.
But Der Stubnitz, I think, is permanently in Hamburg. They got screwed by they're stuck in Amsterdam, and then of course the Dutch came to them with this giant fine, like, you've been here too long, and we need like $200,000. They're like, fuck you. And then and the meter, they're like, well, the meter keeps on running, blah blah blah. They ended up getting a good lawyer who said, you know what? Tell them it's actually a toxic dump, and you're gonna leave it and abandon it there, and that's gonna cost them way more than $200,000. And then like, I dare you try to catch me, and they're like, get out of here, and they just sailed away and never went back to Amsterdam. Different story. If you go to Europe, Andrew, I'll hook you up. Guaranteed, I can get you a show on Der Stubnitz.
Nice. I do want to go back to Europe. I went once and had a great time, but it was part of an ensemble. I've never done like a solo ironing tour there, so
you would in that case probably have to pick up some ironing boards there, or pay extra to.
No, I'm not shipping those.
They won't fit on board.
I have played on tables every once in a while,
not as luxurious as your ironing boards.
When and where is the next tour? First part of the question. Second part of the question, and you don't have to reveal this because I know you're on the fence. Will will people be able to witness you at Inc. this year? Are you going? A lot of people are on the fence. And what does 2024 look like?
So both those things are kind of up in the air. I do have a tour booked up to New York and back after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's.
Well,
where are you playing in New York? Do you know?
It was at the Heart Club, Heart Bar.
Heart Bar. Yep.
Yeah. However, I just hit a deer 2 nights ago.
Oh,
and
no.
Not drivable. So I have to figure out. I was hoping to find out today whether they don't even know this yet, because I was trying to find out what's going on, whether I can get a replacement, whether I can get it fixed, whether I can get, like, what I'm going to do, whether I have to cancel the tour or not. So so
it basically almost totaled your car. Wait, it broke your axle, radiator?
No, it didn't break the axle or anything, but it just hit, it caved in the front, and all the fluids were leaking a bit. And it was right, I played like 2 hours away, and I just driven all these back roads, with my brights on to watch out for animals, and I was like right down the street from my house, and I hit this deer that jumped. I mean, I hit it mid jump. It jumped right out in front of me.
We almost hit a deer a few weeks ago when we were up in Catskill. Tim managed. I don't know what he.
It jumped out, and it was like, hey, is there gonna be a concert tonight or not? It was on the way to the show, and like, no,
fortunately it escaped. Yeah.
Yes, it was a buck. It was a big one. Did you kill the deer?
Yeah, it was struggling. It was really sad to watch. I won't get into the grisly details, but I called.
Are they a nuisance down there as well? I mean, they're a nuisance in a lot of parts of the country, as beautiful as they are, and as tick-bearing as they are.
I don't find them a nuisance. I like seeing them, but I don't have a garden either, so
Well, they're a nuisance enough to fuck up your car.
Yeah, that's true.
And this, it's October and November, which are the mating seasons, and so we're still early enough in December, but that's when they're the most active, and that's when most of these accidents happen.
Good luck with that. Hopefully, you'll make it up here.
So Michigan, where you're originally from, which I always think of that as a much more dangerous environment for hitting deer, but I guess they're everywhere. I wonder if an alligator, if you actually transform the energy by killing this, you think an alligator or something came and had like a nice meal, or no?
No, it's too far away from where they are, and also the police, they said that someone's going to pick it up.
Which is valuable. Yeah.
So all right, I actually walked back up there. So I saw the fluids coming out of my car. I'd already called the police, and I was managed to get my car home before it was overheating, and then walked back up there, and the police were there, and because I thought somebody's gonna have to come out and put it out of its misery. Like that's why. And
the police didn't.
No, they had already died. They didn't have to shoot it. So
it was internal.
Police are like police in Florida are more likely to put people in misery. I'm not so sure about their treatment of animals.
Well, they were nice, and they called me. I was really sad. They were like, "No,
well, there's nothing you can do.
You know, so
there's nothing you can do. But if you do figure out whether or not you're going to do this trip to New York, and you do choose to go based on what's possible, definitely let me know. I'll come to your show. I want to. What's the tentative date?
The 28th
of what?
December.
December.
Oh, all right, a few weeks. Well, hopefully your insurance will cover that horrifying massacre on the roadside, and so that you'll be able to come up here and massacre some sounds on your ironing board. Yeah.
The 29th, I'm also trying to play in Philly, but if that doesn't work out, I'll probably just hang out in New York for another day, which is also great.
Yeah.
So.
Well, great to have you on the show, Andrew Chadwick Ironing. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Andrew Chadwick Ironing, and Tim Dahl. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for doing this, and thanks for being patient with our schedules. We're psyched to have you.
I'm happy to do it. Thank you.